Senator Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now, Mr. Muniz, at this point, Betsy DeVos isn't really even trying to hide the fact that she's giving her friends at student loan companies and the for-profit student loan companies and colleges pretty much anything on their wish list. And that's bad enough, but I have an even bigger problem when she breaks the law to do it. For example, 19 state attorneys general, led by Massachusetts Attorney General Maura Healey, have sued Betsy DeVos for illegally delaying rules to help students who've been defrauded by for-profit colleges. And Mr. Chairman, I'd like to enter this July 2017 complaint filed by 19 state attorneys general in federal court against Betsy DeVos into the hearing record, if I could.
Will be.
Thank you. So I'm just trying to understand what in your record should give us confidence that if you're confirmed, you would help reverse the problem at the Department of Education, or at least make sure that Secretary DeVos is following the law. Can you give me just one example from when you were a top aide to the Florida Attorney General's office, when you initiated a new case to stand up for students who are being cheated by for-profit colleges?
Senator, thanks for that question. When I worked for the Florida Attorney General, I was the Deputy Attorney General and Chief of Staff.
Yes, I know.
As you may know, my role wasn't to initiate particular
So
cases.
is the answer none?
The answer is that in general, not just, Senator, in the area of these companies, but what I was going to say is that we have a lot of respect for the career
So is
attorneys.
the answer none?
We have a lot of respect for the career
Let
attorneys
the
in our-
witness answer the question, please.
All right, but I'm going to run out of time here, Mr. Chairman. This is not a...
But still, I'm going to insist that
Fair
the
enough.
witness be allowed
Fair
to
enough.
answer the question. You can have additional time if you'd like to.
Senator, I'll be brief. We have a lot of respect for the career attorneys in our office. Consumer protection is something that is largely driven by our career employees. And I can assure you that when I was there, the cases that you're asking about in this industry I did not handle those or oversee those or have any involvement with those that was any different from the way that I would have treated anything else that we worked on in that office.
All right, so I'll just point out, this is not a new question. I asked you this a week ago when you were in my office. I asked you specifically, do you have one example that you can just give me where you stood up and you said, you know, here's some evidence that came to us, and we're going to use that evidence to go after one of the for-profit colleges. I asked you for the example and made it pretty clear I was going to ask you here again in public. And what I'm hearing is no, you don't have any. You know, as Senator Franken pointed out, we know that once your boss got a $25,000 political donation from Donald Trump, you didn't join the other states that were suing Trump University for cheating students, and you didn't join the other states in going after Bridgepoint University for cheating students after that for-profit college set up a private meeting with your boss. And I think this is important because Betsy DeVos has filled the education department with for-profit college hacks, including a former Bridgepoint executive and another administrator of for-profit colleges who's now in charge of policing sham colleges. So it looks like, from the point of view of the Department of Education, these for-profit colleges can just go right on cheating students, and so can the student loan companies. Betsy DeVos recently terminated the department's partnership with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. So I want to understand if you're going to help shield these companies from accountability, or if you'll at least get out of the way when other agencies are trying to take steps to protect students. Mr. Muniz, do you believe that when student loan giant Navient illegally overcharged our military troops on their student loans, the Department of Justice had the legal authority to enforce the Service Member Civil Relief Act to fine them in 2014?
Senator, I'm not familiar with that case.
Okay. Do you believe that when the Department of Education debt collector was caught hounding borrowers about debts that weren't even theirs, the Federal Trade Commission had the legal authority to enforce the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act and fine them?
Senator, I'm not familiar with that case, but as we discussed when we met privately, I fully respect the authority of any other entity, whether it's another federal agency or whether it's the state attorney general, to exercise whatever authority they have under their powers.
And you'll get out of the way? You're making a commitment to get out of the way so that those agencies can do that, even if that's contrary to what your boss has said?
Senator, if I'm confirmed, my focus is going to be to advise the Secretary on what the Department of Education can and can't do. Obviously, part of that may sometimes involve advising about jurisdictional issues between...
Well, let me ask you one more jurisdictional issue. I'm trying to keep my time short. I don't want to cut him off.
Go ahead.
But when Navient railroaded borrowers into repayment options that cost students more money but boosted Navient's profits, do you believe the CFPB had legal authority to enforce Dodd-Frank and the Fair Credit Reporting Act to go after them?
Senator, I don't have a view on other agencies and what their authority is.
Look, I'll just quit on this because this is really frustrating. The Department of Education under Betsy DeVos has now said that she's in the way of these other agencies trying to enforce legal rules to help students, rules over which I believe they have jurisdiction. This has been all over the news. You've been nominated to be the lead counsel here. And the idea that you haven't even looked into the question of whether these three other agencies, the Department of Justice, the FTC, and the CFPB, do, in fact, in cases that have actually come up in very recent history, have legal jurisdiction to go forward. I think it's a fair question to ask you. Do you think they have jurisdiction? And if you don't have an opinion on that, I'm sorry, but you just sound like a guy who's going to say, whatever Betsy DeVos wants me to say, I promise I'll sit down and do that. I appreciate the extra time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Warren. I want to thank the